Hello and welcome back to Eye on South Asia. Let's move on to our next story.
Actually, it's in continuation from where we left the last one. While we have a good news of the Indian and US forces practicing or rehearsing or exercising together hand in hand in Rajasthan, we have another story where Pentagon claims they have got special forces parked in India. And while India says, no, we don't have anything like that. So it's a very awkward situation whereby US continues to maintain that they have parked special forces in parts of India, and US says we have no such discussion, we have not given any such approval. Yes, absolutely no.
That's very strange because it's usually the other way around.
Yeah.
But
it's a very contradictory situation, which is not good. On one side, we are having the rehearsals, and then we have, on the other hand, US claiming, I don't know, why would US claim that they have special forces parked in India if they have none, or if India says they have not given any permission to anybody else.
Yeah.
Good news, we reported that there was a kind of a stalemate between India and Pakistan regarding the trade. India wanted Pakistan to open up on the trade relationship with Pakistan, and India's Commerce Minister Anand Sharma had visited. I think it was a significant trip. It yielded results, and Pakistan's cabinet approved a proposal to remove restrictions on prohibited imports from India by December, and it seems that in another year everything will be open, which is what they want, because everybody feels that trade diplomacy, sports diplomacy, cultural diplomacy will really
all helps to create peace between the two countries.
And business, and there were 8,000 items they expect to be cleared up from restrictions by 2013, then everything else. I think that will be a phenomenal move when the two countries can continue to do business very strongly, very well, independently.
Yes, definitely. Now we have a very interesting story, the mystery of the pink turban.
Yes.
And during a White House event with President Obama was speaking, and there was a man named Navroop Mitter, and he was invited to attend this event. And what ABC News noticed when they were televising this is that in the frame there was a man wearing a pink turban, and it so happened that Mr. Mitter, he wanted to be noticed, and so he wanted to be seen by the people at the very back. And it was just a fun kind of curiosity that ABC, they tweeted the White House and asked, who is this guy? So do you want to explain?
Very interesting, This event is about the payroll cut, tax cut extension speech by President Obama. And what happened is they must have sent a message out, what would you do with your $1.40 savings? And he said, I'll go buy my coffee with that $1.40 savings. And they found it was a very intriguing, funny answer, and he was invited. And just like I said, Sikhs take a lot of pride in wearing that turban, and this time he made sure his turban was pink, matching with his tie, and he knew regardless of where he would be, he will be noticed.
Right.
And he had actually told his mom that, Mom, I don't know where I would be, but one of those points when they'll be panning the camera, if they pan the camera, you'll see me because I'm looking unique.
And he didn't expect that he would be right next to President Obama.
He was positioned right behind President Obama, on the little bit behind him, on the right side. Very interesting, and you could see him from anywhere. So like everybody was wondering, who is this man, who is that close, and so dominantly being visible on President Obama's speech.
Right. It's a fun story.
Yep. And here is back to India on the Maldives, the island nation where we have had strong turbulence. The president was taken out, and the new president Wahid Hassan Malik, who took over, actually it was a bloodless coup, almost I would say, because there was a civil unrest, there was fighting, but India was pressurized very aggressively by all parties, that because it's India's very close neighbor. India has had a very good relationship with Maldives, and they said, you need to come in and kind of help us out. You need to resolve this problem and play responsibly. And the India's foreign minister, Mr. Mathai, who was, we've been talking about him when he was in the US, Anjan Mathai went to Maldives for 3 weeks, the trip. and he met with all parties, and he kind of, because his voice is India's voice.
Yes.
And it seems that he's been able to convince them for an early election, because what happened is the new president, Muhammad Wahid, could not even enter the parliament when he went over there, including with his security police.
Yes, because there were protesters.
Well, there are protesters all the time, but you can't not enter the parliament is a big deal. But because he's not duly elected president, and actually the president who was duly elected has been removed by him or through him through persuasive forces. So now, with the interruptions or the interference or the persuasion from India, it seems that parties are agreeing for an early election. So we'll see some kind of peace over there.
Yes, and India is playing a very important role in this situation, because being their neighbors, they're playing the facilitator as well as kind of stepping back and saying, we're not going to interfere.
That is true.
And influence too much, but we're going to facilitate the right decision.
Right, and they normally listen to India as the elder brother.
Yes.
We have a very interesting development. We had a fundraiser here in New York, and President Obama was there. It was organized by the AIA, and there were people who donated almost $1,000 per seat. There were 900 people and almost $1 million. And there was a group of 40 people who bought a food plate at about just under a shade under $40,000.
Wow.
This was a huge fundraiser for President Obama. And he obviously was extremely appreciative of Indians and their successes. And he said very clearly, appreciating in the speech the lead people who were at the event, Deepak Chopra and Reshma Saujani. He felt this was something extraordinary, and this event was put together by Obama for America. Like I said, the API activists who are all Democrats. So very interesting thing, such a big fundraiser for President Obama. He's a rich man, I'll tell you one thing. His party has been able to raise lots and lots of money under him.
Yes, definitely. Whether it's small donors or just, the, I guess, financial institutions and corporations who are donating as well. But this is something that's well needed. It revives his party with liberals and their concerns with certain issues not being addressed. So he needs that attention at this point.
Exactly true. On the Republican side, as we have been reporting, they have hired or they have appointed quite a significant number of people in different parts of the country, especially Florida. And now we have this Democrats doing it in New York, but our own Miss Haley, Nikki Haley, Governor Nikki Haley from South Carolina, is wooing Indian business people and Indian businesses from India to come and invest in her state. And she recently met with the India's ambassador to US, and Ms. Nirupama Rao, who was already in South Carolina for other trip to look for synergies in cooperation with ports and universities, and she met with Governor Haley, and she was very pampering. She said, you are a big star in India already. Everybody knows you, and they appreciate you, and they're proud of you, as well as America is proud of you.
Yes, she's a big star here too,
certainly,
as we discussed.
And so that's pampered her, and like I said, she said very clearly, you're a star back home. And the agenda for Nikki Haley, Governor Haley, was that she wants to bring in different kind of business into her state, especially the energy, the education, the food processing, and other kind of innovations. And I think she made a mark. That message went all over, including obviously US and India.
Right. And now they're in the state of South Carolina, there are only 5 or 6 Indian companies operating, which means, she says, we're not selling enough.
Which is true. And if you look at the national level picture, as Ambassador Nirupama Rao presented, we have companies in 43 different states of United States. These companies are all from India. they have created close to 100,000 jobs, and from those jobs they have created almost 250,000 additional jobs.
Right. And
So,
they paid billions of dollars in
obviously,
taxes.
if you take all these people at certain level of salary, they pay taxes. You're talking of billions of dollars in taxes. So this is what we reported last time, that it's not that India is looking at taking jobs away from America, but it's also Indian companies are now bringing jobs into America.
Yes, this is the big benefit of bringing these strong Indian private sector companies and this partnership.
Rajat Gupta's trial continues, and his lawyers are finding every way, whichever way they can distance Rajat Gupta from Rajaratnam, the billionaire Rajaratnam. And where Rajat Gupta, his lawyers have said that they want the recordings of certain testimony and certain statements from Rajaratnam, where it came out that Rajaratnam and Rajat Gupta were not really good friends, and they did not like each other, and they kind of hated each other. So that would kind of help them show a distance from each other, and then obviously how could Rajat Gupta have leaked news to him?
Right.
And this is about the interviews that were conducted in 2010, almost 2 years ago.
There's several interviews, right?
About 44 but this included federal investigators, included SEC authorities, and federal investigator was the majority of the question that he asked. In fact, they also interviewed Goldman Sachs chief executive, which is Lloyd Banskin, and they asked him lots of questions. In fact, one of the persons who was talked to in Mr. Rakoff, he says one of these days he asked Mr. Gupta about Rajaratnam. Gupta was very, very clear, and he categorically made a statement that Rajaratnam was a bad man. So this is the kind of distance they're trying to create between the two people who are supposed to have colluded to milk money from the Wall Street. So we'll be continuing to watch how this development progresses and how Rajat Gupta's case progresses.
And how that relationship actually was. All right, we'll take another short break, and we'll be right back on Eye on South Asia.